usually the core services of public safety, police and fire protection, parks and recs, parks and recreation, libraries, codes, economic development, neighborhood type services. Those are the core services of the government, and they're provided through our general fund. Now, our next is, what is an enterprise fund? An enterprise fund is a self-supporting business that is basically owned by the city. So our examples would be our water resources department, sanitation, our parking fund, stormwater, and all of the revenues received from this fund, or received in this fund, are used to support the operations of providing that service. And so user fees cover those costs. And on the next slide, we'll talk about what are the revenues used to cover. Covers all the wages, salary, and benefits of the employees of that entity or that enterprise. It covers debt service payments. Our water resources department is pretty capital intensive. We've got to maintain all the water and sewer system. We're working on some good projects in the future that will reduce our operating costs within that enterprise. But it's very capital intensive, so they borrow money, and the rates that we pay support the operation of that business, as well as pay for bonds issued to improve that service. Additionally, enterprise funds make contributions back to our general fund in the form of general and administrative charges and pilot or payment in lieu of taxes. And I'll get into those two concepts at our third session, so you'll have to come back and hear that lesson at that time. And then also, these funds within an enterprise are restricted to those purposes and may have additional restrictions from bond covenants and so forth. So we're not able to take revenues that are generated in an enterprise fund and transfer them over to fund operations within the general fund. They are restricted from doing that. And so in wrapping up, the city has a lot of funds, and we use them to accurately account for revenues and expenditures within those different funds. And all governments use what's called fund accounting, and that's the process that we use. And it's not too dissimilar from the individual accounts that we have, checking, savings, and all those that we chatted about a minute ago. The general fund provides those core services of police, fire, libraries, parks and rec, and then enterprise funds are supported by the ratepayers, which are not always, the universal ratepayers is not always exactly the same as the universal taxpayers. And then finally, because what we're here about tonight is to hear from you guys, so I appreciate the opportunity to share a little about our different funds that we use within our budget. But next week, or not next week, the next summit, we will talk about the use of reserves, the impact of the negative impact on not using them appropriately, and so forth. And then at the third, we'll talk about, really get into the nitty-gritty of our general fund budget. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you tonight, and thank you for your participation. One last thing, I do want to introduce members of our team in the budget department. Denise Labrie, our budget manager, is in the back of the We also have Mr. Jim Chisholm. He is our operating budget coordinator. Angela Ramirez, our CIP coordinator, our capital improvement coordinator. And also, Gary Cornwell came in while I was speaking. He is our city administrator, so thank you, Gary. And without any further ado, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tom. And I would like to say I was remiss in, I want to correct it now, we have several members of council that are here. Of course, the one you know and love, Councilman Charlie Curtis, is your guy. Charlie's been a great asset to our council. We have Amy Foster, she's right next to me. Paul Nurse. of other members that are at some meetings. One of us in T-Barda, two of them I think are in T-Barda or something like that. Meeting over in Tampa, so they're not with us. Okay, without further ado, the clerk will go ahead and call you up, and I think you're going to call a couple at a time and have one in the hole, you know, like the little baseball. We got going on in the on deck circle.
I'll call you up. If you would please come up to the microphone and the speakers to speak. Alma Picklider.
She's right here. She's right here.
You want me to go where?
Come back right there.
Followed by Kofi Hunt.
Right down here.
Good afternoon, everybody. To speak very brief, I don't have long, about some problems that I encounter from time to time that I feel like is something that we as a group could think about and decide what we're going to do. There's one thing about the health, well, about human beings that I come in contact with that they're asking for help and they don't know what to do, and they're causing a lot of problems in the community. And what I feel that what has worked something with me, even with the prisoners who are there, they're tired of going back to prison, and they're discharged here, but they're not equipped to cope with the environment. We know we are all triune beings. We have a body, a mind, and a spirit. And if we develop properly in those areas, it will empower us to make positive decisions when we encounter things in everyday life. Many of them don't have it, and they are asking for help. And with my business, I have a business called Get Real HIV and AIDS, and I go to the prisons, and people just come to me because I started on service in Pinellas County, but they want to talk about their total problems, and they want to improve themselves. And I have done a lot of work on my own. I'm doing all this on my own without any money from the state now, because they say they don't have it anymore. So for several years, I've done this out of my retirement fund. But I feel like as a city, we could set an example of working with these people to give them what they need in these three areas, which will help them function better and correct their problems. I want to give them hope. And like in the body, just for an example, teach them how to maintain their health. You need good health to do certain things that function properly. We have a body, a mind, and a spirit. In the mind, we mentally educate them about things that you will take to learn from day to day to function. And then under the spirit guide, you will feel secure that these things that you've learned, that you can go and do different things. Some of them have not been brought up in an environment. They were not in a home where they had, the proper guidance, and they're just out there. And we know that one of the greatest things that a human being has, and the greatest needs, is the need for belonging. And they're just out there in the street. Everybody seems to reject them. But I want to find out if there's anything that we as a group in this city, we maybe can set an example of how we can cut down on some of this trafficking with these people who are unprepared to make positive choices in this triangle of life. I could say much more, but my time is
I'm going to read from this paper so I don't go off topic and I stay on time.
If you'll just please start with your name, please.
Kofi Hunt.
Thank you.
My coffee. Aristotle said, if liberty and equality, as is thought by some, are chiefly to be found in democracy, they will be best attained when all persons alike share in government to the utmost. That's the spirit of the People's Budget Review is founded on. It was founded on the idea that all people should have a say. We have to look at some realities in St. Petersburg. The median income in St. Petersburg is $27,825, and 80% of the household incomes in St. Petersburg are $60,000 or below. We have to acknowledge a simple fact. St. Petersburg is a working class city, and that's something to be proud of. We have a lot of ambitions for our city, and those ambitions are for our future to build a strong middle class. But first, we have to acknowledge the realities of today and invest in our working class reality. The People's Budget Review applauds the administration, new vision for our city that looks at values they hope to project. We believe it applies to the most important process of our government officials to go through every year, the adoption of our budget. Once again, the budget is where the rubber meets the road and policy becomes reality. So in the spirit of the People's Budget Review, we've brought members of the community, many of whom make up our city's working class, and some that include the lower income residents, to reflect on how they personally feel the visions and values of the administration has set forward. It's been our honor and a pleasure for every organizer of the People's Budget Review to listen every day to residents speak about how they feel about our community. Listening to our friends and neighbors, you can't help but feel a tenor of optimism, an encouraging sense of community that has begun to crack away at the apathy that encourages even our most destitute neighbors to feel tomorrow holds a better promise than today. As an organizer, I've always been taught that the way to encourage community to grow is to not just talk to people, but to actively listen. Listen to people's hopes, listen to their dreams, and then motivate them to participate in the change they wish for themselves and the people around them. Not by providing a handout, but by providing a dignified hand up and the security that comes from true partnership. If they do not participate in this activity, not only the action, but the planning and securing of these visions, any benefits that are gained won't be sustainable. Thank you.
I'd like to caution everyone, if you keep doing, we're going to be a long time. I know you're enthusiastic.
Karen Lieberman.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm Karen Lieberman. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am a retired college professor. I have lived in St. Pete for a year and a half. I take care of my grandchildren. I am a freelance editor, and I'm active in a few local organizations. I'm here today on behalf of the People's Budget Review. And I would like to make the case for community-based budgeting, also known as participatory budgeting. I'm going to speak with regard to the mayor's vision for St. Pete, specifically about stewardship and fiscal responsibility, and how this relates to the participatory budgeting process. Stewardship and fiscal responsibility both call for prudent, far-sighted, and smart investments in people and groups who are working together to move our city forward. We are in the process of recovering from the Great Recession. The cuts on both the state and federal level have been horrific. All of St. Pete has suffered, but it has been dreadful on the south side. It is imperative that the city create or invest in programs to assist the south side in order to advance a seamless city. We need jobs for youth, and we need to put teeth into the jobs ordinance that was passed last year, which will assist ex-offenders in getting jobs. The ordinance also encourages apprenticeship programs, which offer a direct route to the middle class. It is time to rebuild our middle class, and if the South Side does not receive assistance from the city, we will never have a strong middle class or a seamless St. Pete. The usual way a budget is prepared is that essential services are covered with no attention paid to the task of building a strong community. This ignores the stewardship element that could move a city forward. I want to urge the city to build into all budgets and working programs elements to create community, a sense of citizens working together to make a great city. I suggest that we look at our city's needs collectively. I would like to offer a personal example from my neighborhood, Riviera Bay. This is a flood-prone area. If community-based budgeting were a reality, my neighborhood might have the opportunity to work with the city and experts on building structures not only in Riviera Bay, but around the city for flood containment and damage control. Flood containment is the large elephant in the room these days and affects a hefty portion of St. Pete. Flooding threatens both the north and the south sides. Flood containment would bring both physical and fiscal assistance to the city and is an example of what could be done with community-based budgeting. Participatory budgeting allows for buy-in from all parts of the city. It is a vehicle that will build community. I strongly encourage the city to move forward with plans to give the citizenry the opportunity to participate in the budgeting process. Allot a percentage of the city's budget to be decided on by the citizens of St. Pete.
Price, followed by Peggy Green.
This is a photograph from,
Could you please give your
sorry, my name is Constance Price. I'm with the Pedestrian Council, with the mobility group, and we've had with the mobility group recently a very nice opportunity to work with the Parks and Rec people from the city and with the county, helping with surveys for bicycle usage of the Pinellas Trail to give data in support of the application for Tiger Grant at the county level to support improvements to the trail. But on a different level, I took this photograph last week at the Vinoy Basin, one of our more privileged and lovely corners of the city, and I just would like to have that be an image to think about how the people think about putting in receptacles for recycling. No matter where we are, everybody has a trash can, we should have a recycling receptacle, and as many people as there are picking up cans to try to supplement their family income, there must be a way to put that toward some sort of a revenue stream, toward repaying the cost of putting the receptacles in. I don't know, but possibly. And I'd like to give this to the mayor as a reminder.
I'll be in his office.
Peggy.
Oh, I have to reload it.
All about based on
Mayor Kriseman, members of the City Council, thank you for hearing us today. My name is Peggy Green, and I want to thank you, Mayor Kriseman, for including impactful service in your vision for the City of St. Pete, and especially your focus on quality of life. When I think about quality of life, I think about walking. You've heard me say this before. I love walking. I walk everywhere I go. I walk to and from the Bay every single day. That's how I know that it's not safe to walk in St. Pete. That's how I know that the Tampa Bay area nearly tops the list of the 10 most dangerous cities in America for pedestrians. I believe that St. Pete, with over 6 miles of beautiful, accessible downtown waterfront, can make a change. From one of the 10 most dangerous cities for pedestrians to one of the 10 most walkable cities in the world. But twice, I've been hit by bicycles on the sidewalks. And 9 times out of 10, when I step into a crosswalk, I find that I'm sharing the crosswalk with fast-moving cars whose drivers either don't see me or don't care. The lights are timed in a way that promotes the collision course. The lights are timed in a way that promotes the collision course between walkers and drivers. Maybe 500 feet from City Hall is the intersection of 2nd Avenue and 4th Street North. If you stand in front of the hot dog stand in Williams Park and look across 2nd Avenue, you will see something that's both dangerous and absurd. A turn arrow for cars and a pedestrian walking light that occur simultaneously, placing pedestrians and moving vehicles in the crosswalk at the same time. Stand there long enough and you'll see babies in strollers and city buses in the crosswalk at the same time. Rarely do I see any configuration of lights that prevents cars from entering the crosswalks when pedestrians are present. In the crosswalks, where cars are turning in front of you and cars are turning behind you, you need eyes in the back of your head. Crossing mid-block is much safer because you only have to see to your left and to your right. But the police, nothing personal? Where'd that go? Oh, have begun handing out $62 tickets for jaywalking. And that's the safest way to cross the street in St. Pete. I'll wrap this up. Mayor Kriseman, there is, in St. Pete, no safe place for pedestrians. But like you, I believe in quality of life. And I believe this, that St. Pete, with over 6 miles of beautiful downtown waterfront, can make a change. From one of the 10 most dangerous cities in America for pedestrians to one of the 10 most walkable cities in the world. Thank you.
Sharon, you, followed by Cathy Harrelson. Sharon? Yes.
Hi there. Thank you, Council and Mayor, for listening to us this evening. I'm here on behalf of the Sustainability Council that was created by the city's order in June of last year. And we've been around for about 6 months now, and we're an all-volunteer group. We get together and we try to figure out ways of trying to make this a better city through the 4 Ps: equality, economy, and efficiency. And we've tried to do many different avenues of improving the city. One of them is that we're working on a grants master list for the city. So we're working towards trying to help the city develop the ability to leverage the current existing funding that we have for projects into a bigger pool of money. We're looking at different federal, state, and local entities that will offer us matching and local funding opportunities. So one of the things that I'd like to share with you all is what we've done to date. We've to date helped the city apply for the Rockefeller Foundation's 100 Resilient Cities grant. We were not successful, but we hope to be able to try again this year. The other things that we have done is started on helping the city apply for the Funders Network grant, which is a $150,000 grant to help leverage the city's funding for flood management and flood infrastructure improvements. And we've also helped review a grant for the city for the Tampa Bay Environmental Restoration Fund. So this is a grants master list. It's a living, working document. We'll circulate it at some point in time when the group gets together. Cathy Harrelson, who leads it, has presented at the city already, even though we're a fairly new group. We hope to be able to continue to develop ideas and plans, some of them which include addressing our resiliency to sea level rise and climate change. And there are lots of different people with ideas and plans who are at the front of the table here and as well as in the room here. And we encourage you all to come to our Sustainability Council meeting, which is on the 4th Wednesday of each month. And what we'd like to do is to look for continued support from the city for having access to staff, having support from staff, to continue trying to develop and leverage our ability as a group and improve this city for all of us. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here and listening to us. I'm Cathy Harrelson, just referred so beautifully from Sharon regarding Sustainability Council, and I am working with that group. Really love it. I do want to say my son was looking for a job downtown and got one of those $62 jaywalking tickets, and we thought, yeah, like when it rains it pours. So now that I know he was doing that to protect his life, we may have to fight that one. Anyway, okay. So I also am representing not only the Sustainability Council, but coming from the People's Budget Review, which I started working with about a year and a half ago. The concept of community engagement is just such a huge piece of everything that we do. And so I did want to talk briefly about transparent access to the city. We all have seen the successes of Sustainability Council to date, the hunger for that and the timeliness of those issues. And hope to work even further with the city and the business community, the universities, and other organizations and citizens. The ethic of creating that decision-making, a sustainable decision-making process won't happen, though, if we don't have that active community engagement. And that is a dynamic and proactive process. I think we know that the city has a website, for example, but you know what? Having systems, having programs are great, but they're just words on a page. I think we have to make those come alive. And that's certainly something that we want to do in Sustainability Council, but it's also something that PBR and other groups in the city, I think, can recognize. So this is a little bit about technology that we have some technologies that could help us do that. I just want to share a quick personal story. We had a Sustainability Council convening group meeting one Friday morning, and Councilman Nurse came in and Sharon talking about the committee meeting the day before. That was this big meeting about climate change. And I mean, I sat there, I felt like I was kicked in the gut. And I've worked on this issue for 30 years. Didn't know about the meeting. Should I have known? I guess. But sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And on top of that, you can only go to so much. But I felt like there has to be a better way that people who want to participate in the city and in the processes going on can have a more dynamic and interactive way of doing that. So that was my story. I can just imagine people who are looking for shelter and housing and food resources and job resources. It's even more of a dire situation. So that's really what I wanted. We talked about the TV station. It's basically just showing the meetings now. We know that we need to do more to reach out. We talk about flood control. That is a huge issue, and I'm almost done. I lived in Shore Acres 25 years, so believe me, I get it. That's the kind of thing we need to break out the community to talk about. Climate change is the elephant in the room, and maybe that's something that could kind of bring everybody together, because we all have risks. So thank you so much. Thanks for doing this. Thanks to the city for really committing to sustainability.
Caution everyone, let's try to keep it to 3 minutes. A minute over. Give that time to remember speakers we're going to be here a bit. So try to consolidate your thoughts as best you can. Thank you.
Frank McKalip, followed by Linda Sessions.
I'm Frank McKinney from St. Pete. 3928 46th Avenue South. I'd like to talk about the budget process rather than the specific budget. Budgets without some process tend to be short-term things, and they tend to end up being horse trades. My after-school program or your playground improvements. And there's nothing wrong with those, so I don't want to have them ourselves, it's inevitable. But what we really need to do, I believe, is to have a vision of where we want the city to be in 25 or 30 years from now. To do that, we need input, and that should be a product of the city council, because the city council is the closest to the people. That doesn't mean that the city planning staff doesn't have a function in all this, but they necessarily tend to be creatures of the mayor, and they tend to be creatures of the special interests that have a better weight of pressure. What we need to give the planning staff is a goal, where we want to be, what we want the city to look like in 25 or 30 years, and then to shape where we have the opportunity to shape our budgets around that. For example, I'd like to think just several decades ago about where Cape Canaveral stood. Through an accident of geography, they were an ideal place to launch missiles and spacecraft. And through an accident of history with our competition with the Russians, a lot of spacecraft and missiles were going to get launched. So plopped down in the middle of Cape Canaveral was Cape Kennedy. And tens of thousands of young, the brightest people we had in the country, all went there. They went there to work, to live, to raise their families, and everything else. We Floridians supplied them with inferior schools, and we did nothing from the state level to do anything to improve the technical educations that was available. So, as all programs happen, the space program ended, and they all left. And we in Florida were left with nothing to fall back on. And where do we send our kids to get a job as a busboy or a clerk? We in St. Petersburg are coming up to the same opportunity, I believe. We are surrounded by water. We are faced with we have the beauty of several excellent technical schools and research centers that are devoted to marine science. They're right here now. We need to grow, I believe, a business and a community and a world around that to make St. Petersburg the marine center of the world. We can easily do that.
Sir, your time is up.
The only thing I'd like to say is that we need to begin by knowing where we're going, and rather than worry about where we are now. Yogi Berra, I have to quote him because he's a great philosopher. He always had great philosophers to talk about. He said, if you don't know where you're going, how do you know when you didn't get there?
Linda Sessions. Tony Maycom.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council, and thank you for letting me come up to the mic. One of my major concerns in our community is our youth. And I guess everybody else knows about self-employment. And we're not doing anything to help our youth. We have a lost generation out here. And what can we do as a community to reach out to our kids? Because that's our future. You know, we don't have a bright future. We don't have nothing. And the way that I see things now, as far as we have with our kids, it's like a 10-watt bulb. And I ain't never heard of a 10-watt bulb. And it's getting dimmer because we're not focusing on our kids and what they're doing. All we worried about is send them to prison, send them to jail, send them to detention centers. And that's not the answer. The answer is we need to sit down and come up with some kind of plan within inside our community. Getting businesses to get kids, to adopt a kid, to teach a kid a skill. I own a barber shop in Midtown. And I don't mind bringing kids in and mentoring kids because it don't cost me nothing to teach kids how to cut hair. Outside of that, they can go to school from that point on. But it's teaching a child how to feel good about themselves. If a child don't feel good about himself, he's worthless, okay? And that's our future. And we need to lock in on that and come together some kind of way to get businesses to adopt the kid. And that way, we don't have to worry about sending them to prison. We don't have to worry about our kids walking around with their pants down around their behind. We're giving them some kind of purpose about what the same thing that I had when I was growing up. I learned how to do a lot of things when I was growing up. That's why I'm a businessman right now today, because I believe in free enterprise. That gives me the ability to think outside the box. If I stop doing hair tomorrow, I got a squeegee, I got Windex, and I got newspaper that I can go open up me another business. It don't cost me $15 to $20 outside of going to buy my occupational license. Bam, I got a business right there. And that's what we need to be teaching our kids, free enterprise, and how they can sustain in life and be productive citizens. That's the only way it's gonna work. For as I can see, that we need to come together and get this done. And stop sitting down and procrastinating, because this is a new day. And I like what the mayor is doing in the city thus far. So Mayor, I take my hat off to you and just ask you to keep going in the right direction and hold up to your end of the bargain, because I'm gonna hold up to my end of the bargain out here in the community and help our youth and help anybody that I can in my community, because we are a community. So please, let's stop fighting and come on and get something done. And I'm with a group called ACT Right. ACT stands for Attitude, Courage, and Talent. And we all have that. Thank you.
Chelsea.
Good afternoon. I'm present for speaking on behalf of a single mother of 8 from the Midtown area. And I'm here to talk about poverty and how a lot of this conversation and that's being held today is so far from our neighborhoods where we live in. I live close by Jordan Park. And I wanted to talk about childcare and Early Learning Coalition. And I'm a student at St. Petersburg College. And if I'm taking 3 classes and not 4, then I can be denied for childcare because of the policies that are in place. So I'm asking that the city of St. Petersburg consider working with small businesses to come up with some type of grant or some funds to help provide childcare to help single mothers and students pull themselves out of poverty, because there are policies in place at this time that don't allow us to do so. My other thing is that the children, just like Tony spoke before me, are not given permission to be great from the communities that we come from. Some of them are being told, oh, you're gonna just be just like your dad, you're not gonna amount to anything. And these are the children that we're expecting to get out and do something great. And I want to say that I heard Dr. Wayne Dyer say, if you want to accomplish something, then you must expect it of yourself. And I want to say that I'm presenting myself to the city to be the voice for the South Side, single mothers and students. And I want to say that I'll make myself available to brainstorm with anybody, with city council, with anyone, to let them know where our voice lies and where we need the services that we need. And that's all I want to say.
Debby Mazer, followed by Debby.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm here representing the People's Budget Review, and I would like to thank you for the opportunity to share our take on the Mayor's vision of innovation and community engagement. Too often, innovation is a word reserved for business and enterprise. We believe innovation is a creative process that can be applied to any problem. We need new ways of looking at things and new ways of doing things. From economic justice to environmental responsibility to people creating beauty within our city, we believe ordinary people can exhibit extraordinary creativity when given the right opportunity. We will be working to apply fresh and new ways of dealing with old struggles in areas such as education, addressing homelessness, and providing more opportunities for providing more opportunities for adults with disabilities. However, we recognize that without community engagement, innovation is not possible. No policy, plan, or vision can work without the kind of community engagement that continually brings in new leaders and active citizens from all walks of life. We believe there is never too much democracy, and we will continue to work towards greater political and economic democracy. One problem I've noticed in my community is that more and more communities are becoming rental communities, and people don't have that sense of community because they're not homeowners. So our goal is to come up with community projects and activities that are going to create that sense of engagement regardless of if people are homeowners or not. And we believe that it's through these innovative ideas that we can accomplish our goal of creating one of the most active and engaged group of residents in the city. Thank you for your time.
My name is Debby and I live at 300 2nd Avenue Southeast, which is the St. Pete Marina. And Mr. Mayor and council members, the reason I'm speaking tonight is that I'm hoping that I'll be able to save you about $32,000. And I'm not sure, with all due respect to our Parks and Rec person, I don't know exactly who's here, but there was a program enacted a couple of years ago, I believe, for ramp improvements in the parks, and that project has, to my knowledge, been allocated by year. Each allocation for each ramp improvement project is voted on at a particular time. When the bids come in, they then seek your approval. That's my understanding of how that's been working. I know there was an overall plan which was approved, and then there's a requirement for bidding at the time of the project, and that has to be approved. I believe that's how it works. Now, I could be wrong about that, but I just wanted to mention that the Demon's Landing project has not, to my knowledge, been approved yet, and I've spoken to Councilmember Nurse about this in the past. In my own opinion, the boat ramp is needed, and the boat wash that's projected is a new idea. I don't know where it came from, but it's in the project. They've done this at Maximo and Crisp, I believe, and Coffee Bayou, but they're doing the boat wash thing. And from my point of view, that's a nice thing, but it's not needed. And actually, from my point of view, it is a possible pollutant in the bay. And I just wanted to mention, from my point of view, that because of the specifics of Demon's Landing Park and the parking situation and all the rest, there's a number of reasons not to put the boat wash in there. And I think that that's about a $32,000 allocation. So I'm here to just request that in thinking about what we're doing over there, the boat wash would primarily be benefiting the mullet fishermen who come out in the middle of the night and want to clean their boats and dump whatever effluent from oil and whatever from their boats when they do the wash into the bay, because that's where the mullet fishermen fish out of. So that's all I wanted to mention, and I appreciate your consideration of that. Thank you.
Scott Kelly, and followed by David McKalip.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Scott Harrelson. I was born and raised here in St. Petersburg. I'm an active member of the People's Budget Review and the Sustainability Council's Built Environment Working Group. I'm also president of the Magnolia Heights Neighborhood Association. We had breakfast this morning with the mayor, so thank you. I'd like to speak to the mayor's vision of responsive processes that produce sustainable outcomes. This means constant and increased community engagement from input from citizens and the people that use and need our services. Outreach and education of services provided by the city. People need to know what is available. The constant and increased community engagement also fosters ownership. Coordinating with community and community organizations and nonprofits to promote their services and connect them with the citizens. Flexibility is key to this. From my work in Haiti, I know that bright minds, hard work, and good intentions don't necessarily produce sustainable outcomes without the full participation and a sense of ownership in the community. Sustainable practices need to balance economy, environment, equality, and efficiency. And I'd like you to remember those tenets as we form this budget moving forward. Thank you.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for coming out tonight. I'm David McKalip. I'm a St. Pete resident. I run the blog called sunbeamtimes.com. I'd like to ask you all to tell me, will you all be prepared to answer any questions tonight to this forum if I ask one at the microphone?
That's not the format.
Okay. Well, I'll ask one at the end and you can decide.
Individually.
I'm here to ask this council and this mayor to cut taxes and cut spendings, and I'd like to challenge you this year to cut taxes and utility bills by $10 million. Went up $10 million last year, $10 million the year before. I'd like to challenge you that over the next 10 years, you cut spending and taxes by $100 million, which will get us to where we were in 2001 before the exorbitant tax hikes hit this city. I also want to ask you to fund and reform the pension plans that are badly underfunded and health benefits plans for retiring workers. Now, I do want to warn you about the People's Budget Review. Many among them have very good intentions, but do not believe that the People's Budget Review represents the mainstream average city taxpayer. They do not. They're a group of community organizers. They're a group made up of union members, union leaders, the Sierra Club, the Liberal League of Women Voters, Occupy Wall Street alumni, and others. In fact, they spent money last night, I believe union money, on robocalls to citizens to get them here. This is a group of community organizers. They do not represent mainstream views, but represent rather extreme views that are foreign to freedom and foreign to how our government is designed to operate. Here's one foreign concept: direct democracy. They believe that you should place on the ballot regularly items that the citizens will vote on for spending. Well, I have news for the People's Budget Review. In America, we are a republic. When we pledge allegiance to the flag, we don't pledge allegiance to the democracy for which it stands, but to the republic for which it stands, which means that we elect you, our representatives, to make tax and spending decisions for us. Direct democracy leads to mob rule. It always has in every society. Direct democracy leads to a slim majority of people voting away the rights and property and money of the minority of the population. I would like to challenge the People's Budget Review to follow the model we heard earlier from the group Act Right, from that leader. Go to your kids, take them under your wing, go to your churches, go to your schools, go directly to people. I challenge the People's Budget Review to take the money they spend on robocalls and instead give it directly to people in need. Hire people who are going to get kids into businesses. Do that work instead of begging for government money for so-called social justice. Now here's some facts. Citizens of this city spent an extra $1,500 more to fund the government every year since 2001, and yet you have a $55 million deficit over the last 3 years, $625 million shortfall in pensions, $175 million in health benefits. I ask you, no mandatory recycling bill hike, no 14% rail tax hike, no spending on nebulous justice. And here's the questions I'd ask you to address. Will you commit to cut property tax and utility bills $10 million over this next year? And what is your plan? Can you tell us what is your plan to fund and reform the pension plans that are unfunded and will leave workers without benefits they expected?
Kevin Johnson, followed by James Scott.
Good evening. I don't have anything negative to say. I just have positive things to say. I believe, well, anyway, I want to thank the mayor for coming to the James Weldon Johnson Festival. Our article is going to be in the Black Caucus of the American Library Association newsletter, which I mentioned to you and other elected officials. It's going to come out in June. It's going to go all over the country. And I like the leadership. I think you're a consensus leader. Thank you. Also, about libraries. I got challenged the other day by a gentleman. He said, Kevin, why do we need libraries? I can get on my computer. Well, some families don't have computer access. A librarian is an information specialist. They're trained to seek out, organize information. So we need our libraries. And you don't know this gentleman right here. He's Dr. E.J. Josie, past president of the American Library Association and founder of the Black Caucus. 24 years ago, I wrote him a letter, and he came down here and said, I got to speak to you. He recruited us on the spot. And he said one thing, Kevin, when you help one library, you help them all. Don't be selfish. When you help Johnson Branch, you help Main Library, you help South Branch, you help North Branch. And also, we got to be consensus builders ourselves. I'm not going to put all the responsibility on the mayor. John F. Kennedy said, it's not what your country can do for you, it's what you can do for your country. It's not what the mayor can do about the police department, the mayor can do about the libraries, it's about what we got to do about it. Because you know what, at the end of the day, I'm not in your shoes. You got to make a decision. I look for a leader to be global. I'm going to cut it short. Because leaders can't always do what I want them to do. I expect them to be fair. You don't always have to do what Kevin Johnson wants to do, because I might not always be right. But be fair. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is James Scott. I'm a senior at USF St. Pete, as well as the vice chair of the Sustainability Council. I'd like to make 2 points, one about USFSP, one about the city. USFSP has been leading in energy efficiency and sustainability in our city over the past several years. This year alone, we've allocated more than $600,000 toward LED retrofits and energy management technology and infrastructure. We are going to be cutting our bill this year by 5% for our entire utility bill for electricity, just from 1 year's work alone. We are conducting our first greenhouse gas inventory this year, and next year we're embarking on our first climate action plan, which is a really constructive community process, which segues me into my second point, which is about the city. A gentleman referenced looking out 30 years. That is indeed the point of sustainability, is looking that far out. And I must make the point that I've been going to USF St. Pete for 7 years. I live on the south side now, and I now realize we are a city divided. We have a lack of unity between our higher education institutions, K through 12, the neighborhood folks, the business folks, the environmental folks. I can speak for a lot of my peers that we are more optimistic about the city and about you folks who are in City Hall than since I moved to St. Pete 7 years ago. And I would urge you guys to be aggressive. You have mayor 4 years, clock's ticking. You folks with your terms, like I must say, in terms of opportunity, looking forward, looking out forward 30 years, building that community, undividing the city. There is major work to be done, and this moment is a historic moment the way I see it for our city, and we should seize it. We have major problems, and in terms of the city divided, point I'd like to make is, and I'm making this on behalf of Christian Haas, the schools are the greatest opportunity we have to lift up the kids like those in the south side who don't have opportunity. We must create pipelines between our schools and our jobs, whether that's apprenticeships or whether that's trade schools or higher ed. Higher ed isn't for everybody. But we must develop that, because looking forward long-term, developing a sustainable economy and dealing with our city's most profound issues, we must use our education institutions as the tool to make that change. Thank you guys.
this was an open forum, and it's starting to sound like it is, because I'm not going to mention anything about the budget. But I do want to thank the mayor and many of the council members for that letter that you sent off to Duke. I don't know what was in it. I'm sure that I'm not on the inside of Duke, but at least now they know that there's an interest, and I saw enough names on there. I do have a question. You don't have to answer if you're not allowed. But North Carolina's had a lot of luck with you. Did you notice that? So has anybody thought of maybe getting a hold of your counterparts in North Carolina? See how they got it going. That's all. And I know we're not going to have a shot at Tallahassee. I saw this man in Workman. Ways and Means turned it down, so it won't be on the November ballot. But I do have a question. You're the insiders in politics. Supposing we've got a strong governor who was behind us. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a question that would get behind this effort. Do you see a possibility of it helping us in Tallahassee? No. No?
Yes.
Yeah? All right, well listen, thank you. And I do want to thank you for the effort. So maybe contact North Carolina, it's only a woman's fault.
Hi, Mr. Mayor and your team, and welcome. Glad that you're leading our city. I'm a resident since 1976, lived here in the jungle, and I'm going to ask you to consider something that I see going on around town in other areas. I think the previous administrations have given a little more focus and attention to Northeast and South St. Pete than they did to this side, the west side of St. Pete. And I frequently travel 22nd Avenue, so I'm always driving near and by Azalea Middle School. And I can't tell you how many kids are out walking the streets and the sidewalks to get home. And it just looks dangerous. And what I'm asking you to consider, and I drew a little plan, is you have these nice median dividers, lane dividers around town that are nice and professionally landscaped. So they add beautification to the city, but they also have the traffic calming effect. And I really think that it's very important that school zones have this attention brought to them for the safety of our children. It's in the news all the time, kids getting hit by cars near schools. And I know that'll slow traffic down. It'll also beautify the city. This particular stretch of road right out here, we're talking about 8/10 of a mile from 72nd Street to Park Street is where I would like you to focus that attention, from 72nd Street to Park Street. So it's not a huge whack out of your budget. I guess that would come under the general fund since it's public safety, and the kids that go to our schools would come under public safety. This same road connects two beautiful parks, Azalea Park and Walter Fuller Park, which by the way is having the great Green Thumb Festival coming up, which is pertaining to landscaping. So I would ask that you might look at this as an agenda for all school zones and start with this particular stretch of road right behind us. And I think it would be for the safety of our kids, the beautification of our city. It couldn't hurt property values in the immediate areas as well. It might even tend to help businesses and maybe even Tyrone Mall and places like that, because people like to drive places where it's a nice drive, and it would certainly be a nicer drive when I enjoy what you did on 16th Street across from John Hopkins. I'm not down there a lot, but it serves a purpose and it beautified the area, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. So I'd like you to give that some consideration, and I'll leave this with you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Hillary Debby, and I'm a resident of St. Pete. I've been living here since 2001. Tonight I'd like to talk to you about accountability to the well-being of our city. So as our elected officials, you are responsible for the well-being of our city. And in fact, you're responsible for the well-being of each and every resident that resides in this city. Myself, everyone here, everyone who couldn't make it here. And that's why I believe that participatory budgeting should be your top priority. Participatory budgeting will engage the city's residents to inform you, as our elected officials, of the problems that we're facing on a day-to-day basis, as well as possible solutions to those problems. We're at a point in time now where problems can't be swept under the rug. Innovations, creative thinking shouldn't just be pushed aside. And honestly, I don't think that you all should have to do it alone. I think that participatory budgeting will engage the city, have citywide participation, and then have citywide responsibility for us as a whole. And that's it. Thank you.
Hi, Rick Smith. I like listening to people and what they have to say about the budget. And we did a lot of it and talked to a lot of people. And all of this can be boiled down to a little thing. It's a simple question of building a culture of solidarity in our city. By what I mean by that is where we understand that an injury to the least of us hurts us all, that a family in poverty harms us all, that a neighborhood in distress injures us all. I'm a big movie fan. We can do something different. One of my favorite movies is The Grapes of Wrath. Anybody seen it? Of course. And that's it. There's the last scene where Tom Joad, Henry Fonda, is sitting with his mother, the next to last scene. And the cops are after him and he's got to run away. And his mother says, Tom, why? And he says, maybe a fella ain't got a soul of his own. Maybe it's just a little piece of a big soul. And his mother says, and then? And Tom says, well, then it doesn't matter. I'll be all around in the dark. I'll be everywhere, wherever you can look. Wherever there's a fight so everyone can eat, I'll be there. Wherever somebody's beating up a guy, I'll be there. I'll be in the way guys yell when they're mad, and I'll be in the way kids laugh when they're hungry and they know that supper's ready. And when people are eating the stuff they raise and living in the houses they build, I'll be there too. And his mom says, I don't understand it, Tom. And he says, me neither, but Ma, it's just something I've been thinking about. And she's crying. He's leaving. And he does the most human thing possible. He holds out his hand and he says, Ma, give me your hand. I want to get joint hands with neighbors. Everyone. Get your neighbor's hand there. Everyone. Hold your neighbor's hand. So, this is what a city united and working together looks like. Thank you.
Now it's Duensing, followed by Trustee Daniels.
I'm Alex Duensing. I'm here on behalf of myself, the Wonderberg Corporation, as a board member of the Distant Heights Civic Association, and on behalf of Love and of Innovations. We've heard a lot of great ideas here tonight. I just want to perhaps give you a broad pitch about a solution that might be a way for us to move forward. First of all, I think it's really important that this data be collected somewhere online, that people can continue to put their needs and their wants and their desires online in an editable fashion so that we can collaborate as a community, not just with the people who are here or can come to meetings, but in an ongoing way, just some sort of application that says we want more solutions for our roads, or more solutions for flooding, or more solutions for jobs. These should be compiled into some sort of program. perhaps an app. And then these, it may be possible, and this is, again, we're very broad stroke, that in any funding that the city does, that one line, in order to receive funding, one line is put into that, they have to answer this question to receive funding, and that is, what have you done to address these issues? And that could be a small thing or a huge thing, but the main thing is that we need to be a city that cares about each other, no matter what fund we receive our funding from, that innovates together, and that moves forward together. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate
Christine Daniels.
Good evening. My name is Christine Daniels. I've been in St. Pete all my life, which is 60 years, and I have seen many changes right here in St. Pete. But some of the changes that need to be done is like the roads, like on 2nd Avenue South, 35th Street, 2nd Avenue South, and on up to 37th Street. And when you cross on 1st Avenue North, 1st Avenue South, you can't get across unless you get hit. But you gotta look both ways on something, make sure you don't get hit. You gotta look one way if you don't want to get hit to catch the 18 bus. You gotta look on the other way if you want to catch route number 11 or use the 18th one, the Grand Central. Then when you get to 34th Street, you gotta make sure you gotta look both ways because you're gonna get hit that way. When you're trying to go to Grand Central to catch the bus, if you don't want to catch the 19 or the 79. But the only thing I don't understand, and I can't get it together, is the landlord. You got these houses bolted up, and then you got the drug addicts coming into the houses, tear them up, make it even worse for the landlord. Half the landlords don't want to fix them up. But it's making a hard problem for everybody else. Not just on the south side, on the north side, that's the way up. And it's very difficult. You try to live into a community to try to live, make ends meet, especially if you're a low income person. It's hard. And then, like the landlord want to throw really low income people in some of these regular houses. And someone is run down, they don't want to fix them up. And then that make it bad for everybody in the community. And it should be that everybody should have some kind of way to live better than just in run down houses. Some of them be full of roaches, full of rats, and everything else. And that's not fair for people that are trying to, live in some of these houses, try to pay the rent, and some of them want more than what it's worth. It ain't worth. And then some of the newer houses, people go in there, they get these houses, they tear them up. And then that makes it even hard that people want to, buy a house, especially on the south side. It's really hard. And that make it look bad for me and everybody else that lives in the community. And I just want to say thank you.
Okay, that concludes the comments, I believe. And again, thank you all for participating. Don't go yet. We have each one of the council members who would like to say something, followed by the mayor. I'm going to call on Councilmember Cornell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of quick comments. Duke in North Carolina has a whole different framework from the state. It's a state issue. We could have the exact same thing if our state legislature would enact the laws that North Carolina has enacted. So even though it's the same company, there's some differences there. Tony, I appreciate what you said, and I visited your barbershop with Mama T one day when we were doing a ride-along, and really appreciate you. I remember that, and I appreciate that very much. And I think this illustrates something when we say, you know, and I don't say this to be critical, but I say this for dialogue. When we say we need more unity, there's needy kids on the south side. There's also people like Tony on the south side. There's not just needy kids on the south side, there's needy kids on the north side as well. And there's actually kids on the south side that are not needy at all. There's actually fathers on the south side that are doing great things. So we need to we need to start with what's there and build on it. Because there's some really good, Bill Clinton said it, there's nothing, I'll say this, there's nothing wrong with any part of St. Petersburg that can't be fixed by what's right, including the south side. I think that's important. The climate change, good news on climate change. Okay, it was a committee meeting, and could the city have done better? Perhaps, and certainly probably so. But that meeting, the great news is we have done better. It was a committee meeting, it wasn't a dialogue, it was a council dialogue with 2 top scientists. It's online, you can do the same exact thing you would have done at that meeting, which was watch the whole thing. And you can hear it because we chose to put committee meetings online and to broadcast them. So it's available, and I think that's some good feedback to try to make sure we include people, but understand that committee meetings are not, we do have to have some time where we have discussion because we can't have any discussion out in the sunshine. So that's what committee meetings are, and they're purposely not public discussion at committee meetings so that we can have council discussion. But for anybody who missed that meeting, you can go right to our website, look it up, and you can do the same thing as if you were sitting there, which is hear the full discussion. And I'm excited about that, though. I think that's a good thing. We had Holly Green from the Estuary Program and Mike Connors doing a full presentation because this council asked for that. As a matter of fact, I want you to know, Holly talked to me because I'm on the Estuary Board and said, are we ready for climate change? I said, Holly, I think my council's getting a little angry because I'm not bringing it forward. I said, not only are they ready, they're chomping at the bit. They were ready a couple of years ago for this. Let's do it. So I think you have a good council that believes in science. And I think that's important. The last thing I want to make really crystal clear, Tish Elston put out a memo. Somebody sat here and said, our pensions are in trouble. That is not true. We have had an actuary examine that. We have had a lot of people examine that. And let me make clear what he's asking for because I think I won't do it. And I wish he was here to hear it because I'd say it right to his face. I will not let people work for the city for 30 years, 25 years, 40 years, 50 years, be entitled to a benefit and then yank it away from them when they're retired. That is not going to happen, and if people believe that that's the right way for the city to go, they have to vote against me because I will not compromise on that. I will not do that. It's not good fiscal policy. It's not good human policy. And people say, well, there's companies and they do the same. Well, you know what? If I was running that company, it would not do that. The company wouldn't do that either. The private businesses would not get away with that either if I was running them. And not that I'm running the city, but I'm a part of it, and that's where I stand. And I don't equivocate. I don't feel bad about it. It's not an accounting issue. You take away health benefits from somebody that's entitled to them after 30 years of work. That's not the kind of city that I want to live in. That's not the kind of city that St. Petersburg is going to be. And I'll just leave it at that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember.
Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. You know, one of the things I say over and over again is that the best thing about any city is its human and intellectual capital. So I'm not going to give you a lengthy speech tonight because tonight is about you. I did take notes along with names for every single person that spoke tonight, so I'll be in touch with many of you. But I want to say that I believe based on your comments tonight that we are on the right track as a city. All of the themes that were exhibited in your comments are being reflected in the discussions that we are having on the dais and in our meetings with administration. And I'm proud to say that I think you're being heard. Some of the themes that I noted that I just wanted to make a couple of comments. Sustainability, we're with you, we're working on it, and we'll keep coming back to you for more input. I heard you, Tony, and I appreciate your offer to support our youth. With a long background in youth development, I'm concerned as well, and I want to say that our Youth Services Committee is working hard towards finding programs to help youth once they have interaction with law enforcement, as well as trying to prevent them from getting there in the first place. So you'll see some upcoming things with that as well. Pedestrian safety, I marked down that actually came up a number of times, and I want to thank Peggy if she's still here. I know she sent me some information about this week, but Councilmember Nurse has already filed a new business item for us to have a workshop on this, so staff is working on that. Christine, you mentioned drug houses, and I want to tell you I've been on the phone all day with people in neighborhoods with drug house issues. So we're looking at that. I know our lawyers are looking at a number of things that I found that work in other cities. And Councilmember Rice, who just got here, also filed a new business item to look at landlord registries. So we're going to get there. I hear you, and I understand how much of a problem that can be because I have a drug house next to myself as well. All of the other things you mentioned, jobs, schools, we're working on it. I'm learning some patience in this position. The wheels of government move slowly, but I think it's important that we're thoughtful and intentional as we move forward. And then someone mentioned, actually Ms. Lieberman, you mentioned the local hiring ordinance. We actually have a meeting this week on the procurement code. I know that many of us have expressed some interest in how we can strengthen that, and we'll certainly be asking some questions there. So thank you everybody for being here tonight.
Councilmember Nurse.
You know, we're at an evening here where people have quoted Aristotle, Yogi Berra, JFK, and Henry Ford from the Great Giraffe. So with that, I will be careful. I do want to say that elections matter, and the people sitting in this room made a huge impact. How can I say this nicely? You have a mayor and council that are sympathetic to the goals that you have, and I have to tell you one thing, and I just can't hold this in any longer. Because we had a new administration that was prepared to make a real difference in neighborhoods, and because the mayor appointed Mike Dove to run that section of the city, we were able to convince a nonprofit that was not local to buy 70 boarded up houses in Midtown and Childs Park and begin renovating them. And he called me about 4 o'clock today to say, we're closing on Wednesday. You're going to need more money in that rehab rebate program because I'm going to get going as fast as I can. And cooler than that, we've got another dozen partners to work around with. Because people hear that the city is committed to making a difference. None of these folks can do this without, you know, the school system needs to step it up, and frankly, you know, they're adding summer choice or summer bridge and pre-K and actually in even summer pre-K. And we're obviously trying to take it up on jobs. I know the mayor has been calling on businesses, been going to Washington. He was texting a little while ago. He's because he's getting money, for various projects. So we hear you, and I tell you, it is a different world after January 1st.
Okay, we will have words from your councilman, Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And on behalf of, I'm sure Dr. Carlson wouldn't mind if on behalf of himself and the rest of the Jungle Terrace Neighborhood Association, I welcomed you all to the most beautiful part of St. Petersburg. No, we truly do, We are so blessed as a city with our geography from north to south, from east to west, from bay to bay. And the person who talked about stewardship tonight, and it's our job to look out for the well-being of everyone. You know, that's what it's about. And Carl's right. Everyone up here, and Amy said it too, she talked about her optimism of the people who are running the city. I ran for office because I wanted to make sure that during the recession, we didn't crawl up into a fall and just hope everything would be okay. Because what the right thing to do was to position ourselves so that when things turned around, as they were going to, that we hit the ground running and we'd be in a position to take our assets and take our blessings and make the best of them. And that's what's happened. This council, the administration, and I can tell you the breadth of the city's employees are committed. This idea about innovation and sustainability, it is awesome and wonderful that it's been verbalized, that it's been institutionalized, that it's been now put up in bright, bold letters for everyone to see. But the God's honest truth is, there's been people in your city working on this for a long time. If you know Michael Connors, you know that Michael Connors is one of the most innovative green thinkers around. That guy's been working on green stuff since, you know, what's the old saying? I was country before country was cool. He was green before green was cool. And your city is going to be a city that produces its own methane to run its fleet of CNG garbage trucks, of which we just purchased 15 more not too long ago. So Carl's right, Amy's right, we get it. I'm very, very pleased to hear that that's the direction that most all of you want to go in. So I echo that optimism, I echo that enthusiasm. Here's the deal. We want to say yes to a lot of this stuff. Helping kids. Every single one of us up here wants to do that. We have budgeted more of the money we've been able to scrape up to do stuff towards exactly that. After school work programs, teaming up kids with employers. The problem is we can't fix it all. We can only help 75, 80 kids a summer. We can only help 35, 40 kids during a school year, because that's the resource issue. And the God's honest truth is your ad valorem taxes are $90 million in revenue. The police department, which is a great police department, is $94 million. And the fire department, which is a great fire department, is $32 million. Ad valorem revenue does not pay public safety. So I just mentioned that to give you an idea of the scarcity of resources or the difficulty in identifying resources. And we understand it's, what it comes down to is a prioritization of values. That's why it's so important that the mayor and Kanika and the rest of his administration and staff have articulated those values. We've got a roadmap. When we have a tension or a contest between where those resources need to go, the values drive the decision. That's it. That's what that's for, and that's why it's important. And I think you would all have to agree that those values are consistent generally with what's been talked about tonight. We don't have a problem getting to yes on these issues. What we have a problem is getting enough resources to make the yes work well. And that's something, you know, we're all going to have to struggle with. So, and just lastly, to the drive-by questioner, no, I will not cut taxes $10 million. And I'm glad, Steve, that you pointed out, look, our pension is actuarially sound, it's fiscally sound. You know, the accounting rules are changing next year, and they're going to force us to report pension obligations beyond what the revenues are. So you're going to see in the reports after 2015 this gap, but it doesn't mean anything in terms of actuarially and fiscally sound pensions. So I talked way too long. Thanks for coming, Darden.
Rice, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Darden Rice, and sorry I wasn't here for the beginning. I haven't quite figured out how to be two places at once. But as my witness, City Council Member Newton and I have had a PSTA board meeting at the same time, and I got here as soon as I could. So I'm looking forward to watching the tapes and hearing everyone's comments. I think this is a very important process. I was a close part of working with the People's Budget Review before I was elected, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you through this process. And anyone who has any direct questions for me or questions about what's happening in District 4, please feel free to contact me at darden.rice@stpete.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Newton, you want to add anything?
I just want to thank everybody for coming out. I like the large turnout. This is my 7th year on council, and ever since we've been going out to the community, we have 3 of these meetings and 2 more left. The people have been coming out, and that's important because you're the ones that we service. Is your money, so we would like to hear about the way you like to see the amenities and stuff that's and services that are provided around the city and the way you want to provide it. I apologize for my tardiness too. We both were at 6 o'clock at PSCA, so we couldn't be both places. I do have a twin, but he's out of town. But I'm looking forward to the budget process and your input. I think it's healthy. Fresh back from Tallahassee, I can tell you it's a madhouse up there. I was there for the last two days fighting the juvenile justice issues, and we spending quite a bit of money locking up kids. So we're trying to find a way, hopefully, to shift some of that and free up some other resources. I can tell you unequivocally, our police chief, Chuck Harmon, did convey to me that our police department, which is 554 strong, approximately 30 to 40% of their time, 30 to 40% of the sworn officer's time is spent dealing with issues that are germane to juveniles. Now you're talking about a department that's north of $92 million. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out if we can find a way to get these juveniles more engaged. They want to deal with the police, so you want to do all of this. So I'm on it. We're trying to find resources to do that, and we appreciate your input. Thank you.
And lastly, I'll wrap up. I just want to say again, thank you for everyone. I sat there and as I was taking notes, I had last year's first meeting, and it's amazing. A lot of the same problems and things were what we discussed last year. Some of them have been removed from there because we've actually improved on them, but it's they're ongoing. And I will say that in all fairness, it is a new day, and January 1st certainly did bring a different perspective to our city. But in all fairness, we also had the worst economic downturn in the last 4 years. And, you know, my mom once said you can't get blood out of a turnip. And no matter how much you squeeze and squeeze, there's only so much that's going to come out. And so we have a new vision. We have an opportunity now because we are seeing some signs that the economy is turning around, and hopefully we'll be able to have a little bit more blood in that turnip, and we can make things happen. There was a couple of issues that were brought up in flooding, and if you'll talk to me afterwards, because I won't take everybody's time. There's some resolution there. I represent the largest flood area maybe in the state of Florida, or maybe in the country, Shore Acres, and trust me, I feel the pain, and I feel the water coming up around my neck. But we are addressing it, and so if you'd like to see me afterwards, I think it was Ms. Lieberman, you're the one who spoke. talk to me afterwards and I can maybe get you straight. Without further ado, I would like to, our mayor has really, really done a good job. He's been in, and as I said in the newspaper, that you know, the honeymoon is pretty much over, and he's working on the marriage now. And I have the opportunity to meet with the mayor on a regular basis every week, being the chair, and it's something that he's asked, that we both have asked to have happen. And I will tell you that he is focused, and he's got a great team with her, and Tanika, she's great, and so without further ado, Mayor, if you go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the things that I wanted to say that's really, to me, very exciting about tonight, but in general, is there seems to be a new energy in the city. I feel it on this council, but I also feel it out in the community, and to me, that's really exciting, because there seems to be a renewed desire. There's always been a love of the city, but there's a renewed desire to take us to that next level. One of the words that I heard that resounded tonight, which I think will help us get to that level, is community. A lot of the speakers talked about community and that we need to function as a community. And, you know, when we put this vision together, we knew we had to have the buy-in, first off, of City Hall, that all of the employees had to buy into this vision of where we were going to go as a city, so that we were working together as one team going in one direction. But we also knew we needed to have buy-in from the community. And based on what I heard tonight, I feel like we're getting that. Let me explain why I say that. I'm going to break down the vision just briefly for a second, if you'll indulge me. St. Petersburg will be a city of opportunity. I heard a lot of speakers talking tonight about becoming a city of opportunity, where the sun shines on all areas of the city, on everyone who lives in the city, on the entire community. To be innovative and creative, we heard those words a lot tonight. That respects our past and recognizes where we came from, but pursues our future, 30 years, 50 years from now. We heard all of those things tonight from you all. You may not have said it in the form of a vision, but you expressed our vision. You all expressed where we're hoping to go and where we can be as a community if we work together as a community. And I also want to tell you all that we're already utilizing this vision on formulating this budget. We've asked every department in the city to look at this vision, line by line in their budgets, and see if it fits with what our vision is for the future of this city. Just because something's been in the budget for years doesn't mean it needs to be in the budget going forward if it doesn't fit what our vision is, what our collective vision is. So I'm very encouraged by what I heard tonight, and I hope you are too. I think we've got great opportunity in the city, and I look forward to the next budget discussion. And I, again, want to thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you, everyone, for coming, and we are adjourned.